Hi, it's Steve Simmons. Welcome back. This is a StatMaster training video. This is part 2 of managing hole details. So in part 1 we went in and we established this round of golf, and then we showed you the screen and the layout of the hole detail panel and what all of these different fields are designed to do. So this part 2 is designed to get in and talk specifically about some ways that you use the product and the system and how to enter some scores. So we're just going to take these in order. There's 3 holes. We're going to play 1, 2, and 3, and then we can talk about different things that and how each of those there'll be a par 4, a par 5, a par 4, and a par 3. So we'll kind of go through this and show you how this would work. So hole number 1, par 5. Let's just take a standard example, which would be that I have a tee shot with a driver. I hit the fairway, and I used my pre-shot routine, and it was about a 5. And on the second shot, I hit a fairway to position the ball in front of the green with a 2-iron. And I didn't use a pre-shot routine on that one. On my approach shot, I came into the green using a pitching wedge. I hit the green. I used a pre-shot routine, and it was about a 6. And then I had my first putt was from about 30 feet, and I just missed it. And I didn't use a pre-shot routine on my second putt. I made it, and it was from a couple feet. So now that is a fairly standard par 5, and you'll notice here that we have a score of 5. We have a green in regulation because we told the system that we hit the green here, and that was a green in regulation. Now, if we actually, I'm going to show you some examples on this where we could change this slightly and how this would be different. Okay, so there we go with the standard version of this. Now let's take and make a slight variation of this. Let's say we still hit the tee shot with a driver. We hit the fairway. We had a pre-shot routine. We hit our second shot with a 2-iron down the middle of the fairway in front of the green, just like we did the first time. We have an approach shot with a pitching wedge, but this time we did not hit the green. Okay, so on our next shot, we have we're going to hit a pitch shot using a sand wedge, and it was from 25 yards. Say we went over the green, and so now we're 25 yards away from the flag, which is about 75 feet. And we use our pitching wedge, and we have one putt, because when we hit our pitching wedge with a sand wedge, or we hit our pitch shot with a sand wedge, we hit it up to 5 feet. So our putt would be from 5 feet. We make that. You'll notice now that we don't have a green in regulation, but we do have a conversion, because we had we missed the green in regulation, which would have been right here. We had a pitch shot with our sand wedge, and then we got up and down with one putt to save par, and so that was a conversion. So there's another way you would do that. If, for instance, now I take and I do play the same hole the same way, tee shot with a driver, hit the fairway, 2-iron in front of the green, approach shot with a pitching wedge, I miss the green, I pitch on with a sand wedge. My first putt is, say, 5 feet, I miss it, so now I have another putt because I missed that one. You'll notice that what happens is now my conversion goes away, because I did not get up and down for par, and that could have been the same thing there. So I did not get up and down for par, and so therefore now my score is 6. Now let's show you what happens if we kind of botch things up a little bit. Let's say with our tee shot, We hit the tee shot with a driver. We missed the fairway because we hit the ball out of bounds. Okay, the next shot under out of bounds, we have a stroke and distance penalty. So what we need to do to make this work properly in StatMaster is that we're going to come in and we're going to use a recovery shot, which is going to take us back to the tee. Okay, then we hit another tee shot with a driver, and this time we're in the fairway, but it really doesn't matter. If you put the fairway there, it's not going to count because it has to count on that first tee shot. Then we hit our second shot with a fairway and a 2-iron. Then we hit our approach shot with a 9-iron. And we're on the green at that point. Then we have 2 putts. We actually hit a pretty good shot there. We're 9 feet away, but we missed that putt. And then we have another putt there. So now you'll see that our score is now, we have a double bogey. It's important to note on the recovery shots that we have right here, the recovery shot is used for a couple purposes. One of them would be if you're OB, you hit the ball out of bounds, you have a stroke and distance penalty. So we've got to have a shot to get us back to the tee. So we go down, our ball's out of bounds, we've got to get back to the tee, hitting 3 on our third shot, or our next shot off that tee box. Or if we hit the ball into a water hazard, we have to take a drop from the hazard. So we go down to the hazard where it enters the margin of the hazard. Then we have to make a decision if it's a water hazard or a lateral water hazard, where our drop options are, or whether we go back to a drop area, whatever. To get to that next point of where we're going to play the next shot, we use a recovery shot to get to that point. Or if we hit the ball, let's say we hit the ball out in the trees and we can't advance the ball forward, we have to chip back out into the fairway, then what we would use is that recovery shot to get the ball back out into the fairway and then to advance from there. So that's 3 different examples of how we would play or potentially enter scores on a par 5. So let's go to the next hole, which is a par 4. So we have we're going to tee shot with a driver because it's a 450-yard hole. So we missed the fairway, and we missed it left. We had a pre-shot routine. It wasn't very good. And then on our next shot, we hit our approach shot because we're close enough to try to hit the green. We're going to hit our approach shot with a 5-iron. We actually hit the green. And we used a pre-shot routine that was another 4. And then we have a couple putts here. The first putt was from 20 feet, and we missed it. And then the next putt is from, we just basically lipped out. So this one is in that range. And so there we have a fairly straightforward way to play this lengthy par 4. Now, you'll notice that we have a green in regulation because we told it that we hit the green on our second shot, so that was a green in regulation. We did not have a fairway on this one, and we had 2 putts. So let's play the hole again. Let's make a couple variations to this. That we hit the tee shot with a driver and we missed it left. This time we hit the approach shot, except we push it right, and let's say that there's a water hazard that's on the right side of the green, and we ended up going into the water hazard. So then what we would do is we would use a recovery shot to come out of the hazard. Then what we would do is hit our at this point we could be hitting any number of different kinds of shots. Let's say we hit a pitch shot with a sand wedge, and we were at this point 40 yards away, and then we hit a putt and we happen to make this one from 20 feet. So you'll notice now that because of our one-stroke penalty, we hit our first shot, second shot into the water, out in 3, pitching 4, one putt 5. So that's what our score ended up being on that hole. So there's an example of how you would potentially use another recovery shot. Let's go on to the third hole, which is a par 3. Okay, so on our tee shot, once again, every hole should be started with a tee shot, regardless of what it is. So you should have 18 tee shots in a round of golf. Let's say on this hole it's 152 yards, so I'm going to use my 8-iron. If I hit the green, we need to tell it. So I hit the green, and then my next shot was a putt from 20 feet, and I made it. So my score would be 2. So I'd have a green in regulation because I hit the green in 1 or less shots. I made the putt, so I would have a birdie. If we go back and look at the summary screen for a second, we're going to see a couple things that we have so far. Now remember, it's going to show us what we've done so far. So we have 14 strokes in total. On our average score for the par 3, you'll notice that we have 2 because we only played one par 3, and we made a birdie, which shows up here. On the par 4, because the second example is where we stop, where we hit the ball into the water hazard, came out on the green and one putted for bogey, you notice our average score on the par 4 is 5, and we have a bogey. And then on the par 5, you remember that we stopped with the version that was we hit the ball out of bounds, so we're 1 out, 2 back, 3 in, 4 up in front of the green, 5 on, and 2 putt for a 7. So there is our double bogey there. We did not hit the par, because of the way we did it, we only hit 1 green in regulation, which was the par 3 that we played. We didn't have any chipping attempts. We did have 1 pitching attempt, and that we did not make that one, so that was not successful. And then you'll notice that the number of putts we had was 4. The number of fairways we hit was only 1. The number of greens in regulation, 1. The total putts in green regulation. Now we only hit 1 green in regulation, and that was the par 3 where we 1 putted for birdie. So there we have our 1 putt on greens in regulation, and because we only had that 1 green in regulation so far, our average putts in green regulation was 1. We followed 4 shots. We used a pre-shot routine, which was 28% of the shots that we've hit so far. 28 of 4 is 28% of 14. And the quality of the shots, the average quality is 4.75 based on the numbers that we supplied it so far. So if we go back and look at the any of those questions there, then that's the way that. Now we gave some other examples. There's several different examples that we've used in the documentation in different places with a little more detail to try to explain different variations how this would work. But that's the way that the system is set up to take and use those shots. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, you can open up a support ticket, or you can contact me through the support page or the contact page on strategiggolfer.com, and I'll be happy to get back to you with an answer as quickly as possible.